The family of Britain's first Ebola victim praise his care at a London hospital. William Pooley is the hero nurse who put his own life on the line in West Africa. Also tonight, guilty until proven innocent. Boris Johnson's radical plans to tackle extremists.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
And mourning a true legend, the world remembers Oscar-winning Richard Attenborough.
This is ITV News with Ranveer Singh.
Good evening. The family of the first Briton to contract Ebola in West Africa has praised doctors for the excellent care he's receiving after being returned to the UK overnight. Nurse William Pooley was a volunteer treating victims in Sierra Leone when he became infected. Lewis Vaughan-Jones has the latest from the North London hospital where he's being treated.
William Pooley is spending his second night in a London hospital, trying to recover from a disease that has no known cure. In a statement, his family say, "We have been astounded by the speed and way in which the various international and UK government agencies have worked together to get Will home. Will is receiving excellent care at the Royal Free Hospital, and we could not ask for him to be in a better place." William Pooley was flown in from Sierra Leone last night. He'd been volunteering there, helping people with Ebola. He was taken to the Royal Free Hospital in North London, where he's in isolation.
Essentially what is offered is supportive treatment. So if the patient is bleeding, he can be given blood. If his blood isn't clotting properly, he can be given clotting factors. If his kidneys stop working, he'll be put on dialysis.
He's being treated in sterile conditions, and the risk of Ebola spreading here is said to be extremely low. One expert I spoke to in tropical diseases early says he thinks there's a good chance of survival here because the patient is relatively young, relatively fit, and he believes the disease was caught relatively early. On top of that, of course, just last week we had 2 patients in America who made a seeming full recovery from Ebola. So here this evening, despite the very grave situation, there are reasons for hope.
Lewis Vaughan-Jones, many thanks. Boris Johnson has been criticised from both within his own party and outside it for saying Britons who travel to Iraq and Syria should be presumed guilty of terrorism. The London Mayor also suggested dropping a bomb on a British jihadist who appeared in an Islamic State execution video. Our political correspondent Libby Wiener has more.
After a week in which politicians have struggled for answers to the American journalist James Foley's horrific murder.
Thank you very much.
The man hoping to succeed David Cameron came up with a simple one: kill his killer. Writing in the Daily Telegraph, Boris Johnson said, "We just want someone to come along with a bunker buster and effect an introduction to heaven as fast as possible." And he goes on to suggest that the law needs a swift and minor change so that there is a rebuttal presumption that all those visiting war areas without notifying the authorities have done so for a terrorist purpose. Guilty before proven innocent, the former Attorney General Dominic Grieve dismissed that as draconian. Labour were also unimpressed.
I don't think these are sophisticated, sensible or responsible comments by the Mayor of London. What we should be doing is focusing on ensuring that we overhaul the PREVENT programme, so we stop people becoming radicalised and going and doing these things. We need to do more to disrupt the travel plans of people planning to go and do these things abroad.
Just weeks after announcing he wanted to stand for Parliament again, Boris Johnson's suggestion that a basic tenet of English law should be overturned has raised eyebrows. But his comments today will nevertheless find some support among those who believe the government should be doing more to target the terrorists. Libby Wiener, ITV News, Westminster.
A mother who sparked a massive manhunt in Edinburgh after reporting her son missing has been jailed for 11 years for killing him and hiding the body. The court heard that 3-year-old Mikhail Koulard died in January after being beaten by his mother, Rossdeep Adekoya. She hid his body in woodland in Fife. A Scottish teenager has died in an incident police are linking to the Ice Bucket Challenge. 18-year-old Cameron Lancaster is said to have taken part in the social media craze before disappearing under the water in a quarry in Fife. And in America, the funeral of 18-year-old police shooting victim Michael Brown has passed off peacefully. The St. Louis teenager's death sparked weeks of violent protests. The final TV debate between the leaders of Scotland's yes and no campaigns takes place tonight, less than a month before the referendum on independence. Those backing independence face an uphill battle in the polls. To Martin Geiser now, who is in Glasgow tonight. Martin, in your assessment, the biggest challenge of Alex Salmond's career so far?
Yeah, I think that's fair. He's worked his whole career towards this referendum. A lot of Scots still don't know how they're going to vote, and he needs to win them over. He could do with doing that tonight. As you say, it's his last head-to-head with Alistair Darling. It's a chance he really can't afford to miss. You remember they've clashed once before at the start of this month. Mr. Salmond was perceived to have lost that encounter. Actually, it didn't do him all that much harm at the polls. He'll argue events like this don't really matter. His detractors will remind him he's got 6 or 7 percentage points to make up, just 3.5 weeks to do it. He needs to find a game changer from somewhere. And with 3.5 weeks to go, he could probably do in front of a big TV audience with finding that tonight. I think he'll be a lot more combative, a lot more confrontational, a lot more aggressive. He has nothing to lose. You could argue a draw won't be good enough for him. I suspect we may see some fiery exchanges here in Glasgow.
Martin Geisler, many thanks. And finally, he was one of the greats of cinema, the Prime Minister said today, paying tribute to the legendary actor, director and producer Richard Attenborough, who has died at the age of 90. The star of his Oscar-winning film Gandhi, Sir Ben Kingsley, said Lord Attenborough touched millions with his work. Sejal Carrier looks back at his life.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
For more than 60 years, Richard Attenborough was simply a towering presence in cinema, whether in front of the camera or behind it.
Give it to me! Give me the gun!
He won his first leading role aged just 24, as a sadistic gangster in Brighton Rock. Eventually, Hollywood came calling, and he starred opposite Steve McQueen in one of the most celebrated war films ever made, The Great Escape.
Meanwhile, we dig.
But Richard Attenborough became as revered for his off-screen talent as his on-screen magnetism. He directed Gandhi, starring Ben Kingsley, a film which came to define his career.
100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
It won 8 Oscars, including for Best Director. It is rare to find such successful and celebrated siblings as Lord Attenborough and his brother, the naturalist Sir David. But his talent and his passion for filmmaking have made him one of cinema's greats.
To work in the movies, to be allowed to express my feelings and my hopes and my aspirations is heaven on earth for me. And I would want to go on and on and on till I just fell off the twig and disappeared.
Sejal Carrier remembering Lord Attenborough, whose death was announced late last night. I'll be back with all the latest developments in the news from around the world at 10 o'clock. But bye for now.
Preparing the nation every day. ITV National Weather, sponsored by Vitabiotics Vitamins.
Hello to you again. A very good evening. Well, after a dreadful setup this bank holiday Monday for most of us, it continues to pour with rain across southern counties in the next 24 hours, drier elsewhere, and again disappointingly cool for the time of year. We're just as fed up as everyone else. Temperatures remain very much on the low side for late August. Today, this is the way things have looked on the earlier satellite and radar picture. A swathe of grey cloud and steady solid rain across much of central southern Britain, across to Northern Ireland. Northern Britain got away with a drier day, some sunshine across northern Scotland, and a better end to the day across parts of the southwest before these downpours get going as the night wears on. It's this deep area of low pressure anchored to our southwest that's given the atrocious weather today. That gives way in the next few hours, and into tomorrow high pressure will tend to build from the North Sea before, you've guessed it, Another deep area of low pressure waiting in the wings to interrupt our weather come the latter stages of the week once more. Back to you tonight. Today's rain sits across much of southern Britain. The cloud preventing the temperatures falling too far, so a mild night here. Further north, clearer and colder. Temperatures falling away. A chilly start to the day tomorrow across Scotland, but the compensation will be some lovely sunshine here. For the rest of us, a dull and damp initially. Rain as most of us head back to work. The rain sinking its way into the near continent to become increasingly confined to these southern coastal counties through the afternoon. For the rest of us, a big improvement. The best of the sunshine confined to the north and the northwest once more, and I don't think we'll notice the temperatures much. Maybe 21 degrees are to push. Many of us in for fine conditions on Wednesday before things go downhill from the southwest.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by Vitabiotics Vitamins.